Shabbat Shalom. Limnot yameinu, limnot yameinu, limnot yameinu ken hoda venavi levav chochma, limnot yameinu ken hoda venavi levav chochma. Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days so that we may get for ourselves a heart of wisdom. Generally, in Jewish life, we try not to count too much. But after the book of Leviticus, as the Torah returns us to the odyssey of the Israelites, Bamidbar, in the wilderness, this fourth book of the Torah is known as the Book of Numbers for the census with which it begins. God commands Moses to summon the 12 clans and count the number of adult men they can offer for the coming battles. It's an impressive sight to imagine as the tribal heads tally up their ranks and take their places around the tent of meeting, an army of the Holy One with God's dwelling place in the center. But Jewish ambivalence toward counting people is long attested. In an earlier census, the people gave a half shekel to indicate their numbers, but the gifts were for atonement and building the sacred precinct, so that back in Exodus, there would be no plague among them when they are counted. In later times, a terrible plague does nearly wipe out the Israelites when King David, of all people, what a flawed and marvelous character, when King David counts the people directly in the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 24. Some claim that counting people incurs jealousy and invites the evil eye to come visit. Others insist that the Jewish people should not need to be counted if they behave as one unified body, and that only when they are individuated does community collapse and fragmentation occur. That's from a 19th century text called Sefer Panim Yafot, the Book of Beautiful Faces. Nice name. Jews often do avoid counting people directly, including the traditional not one, not two technique, or using a 10-word scriptural verse. There are actually two from which to choose to count a minyan. I love these verses. One choice is, back to Psalms 28, verse 9, Hoshia et amecha uvarech et nachalatecha ureim venasem ad ha'olam. It means, save your people, bless your heritage, be their shepherd, and carry them forever. A wonderful way of not quite counting people. And another beautiful verse from Psalms, which also has 10 words, from Psalm 5, verse 8, Va'ani berov chastecha avo beitecha, eshtachave el heichal kodshecha beyiratecha. As for me, with abundant kindness and grace, I will come into your home. I will bow down in your palace, your holy palace, with awe of you, O Eternal One. So 2 marvelous choices when you need to count for a minyan and don't want to do the not one, not two. Much better to do some verses of Psalms and give a blessing to the people that you're counting, or not counting, as the case may be. But counting is so important, right? It's a way to check in, to make sure that as many as possible are present and accounted for, and to ascertain for this tiny group of people, a dot on the canvas of humanity, that we are still a recognizable and sizable enough group to actually actually count for something in this world. There's something really wonderful about the way the phrase "take a census" appears in Hebrew. In this parsha, it is referred to as Se'u et Rosh, literally raise the head of each member of the house of Israel. It suggests standing up tall to be seen and counted. It conveys a posture of pride, taking ownership of one's place in the ranks. Yes, I am well aware that only the men were counted. We'll just acknowledge that and let it be for right now. And how was it that the men of fighting age were even counted? If we count them as individuals, it's at least 600,000, which, accounting for those not of fighting age, the women, the children, the elders, would have meant something like 2 million people were clanging about Bamidbar in the wilderness. That's a lot of people. More likely, if we want to take the counting close to literal, it was counting by troops, by the numbers of troops, which would make it a far more manageable number, something like 20,000. Either way, this is a season of counting. We're almost at the end of the counting of the Omer period, this day where we are just about to come to Shavuot. Today is day 48. We don't count the day that's to come until it actually comes, but we're almost at the conclusion of the cycle of 7 weeks of 7 days, this beautiful 7 times 7 gorgeous number of 49 coming to day 50. Please God, tomorrow evening when we come to Shavuot. So there's a lot of counting that goes on at this time of year. And there's even more counting that shows up in the Parsha. If you'd like to know a little bit more about that, I can direct you to a piece that I know intimately in the J Weekly that appeared this week that looks at the way that the firstborns were switched for the Levites, sort of a redemption of the firstborn so that they didn't have to serve as the priests, but there was an overage, just a few hundred over, and in response to compensate for the extra Levites and the lack of firstborns, there was a payment to make up for the difference of 5 shekels per head. So kind of a neat first redemption of the firstborn. If you want to take a look at it, go ahead. This parsha is just replete with numbers, and it can get a little bit dizzying, but know to the ancient world how important it was to count each and every one of us. We have been involved in an agonizing counting for 602 incomprehensible days. As Vivian earlier said in our service, now almost effectively our neglected and forgotten hostages, even by those in the world who seemed to care to count these few lives remaining there. There are no words to describe the feeling of abandonment and loss. So many relationships have been ruptured so terribly, and to think of these few, not even 3 minyanim left, probably of living hostages, and each day, how they survive, I cannot begin to imagine what kind of counting they must have been doing and are still doing, waiting to be released, and what kind of terrible pawns they're serving in this unbelievable war that has dragged on for more than 600 days. It just defies any of our comprehensions. I'm also continuing to think of Elizabeth Tsorkov, a Jewish woman who has been held in Iraq, her story barely known, for more than 800 days. 805 days Elizabeth Tsorkov has been held in Iraq with almost no press attention whatsoever. A woman held there, a Jewish woman. I cannot imagine what our lives would be like if we were to sit in captivity, barely able to know whether it's day or night, and to know how many days we've been there, and to wonder, have we been forgotten? The census may seem strange at the beginning of the book of Numbers, but it tells us that every single one of us is important and deserves to be counted. Jewish lives count, and Jewish lives matter, even when sometimes it's only us and a few close friends that are remembering that. At Shavuot, we rejoice in the divine gifts of the land and its yield. And as the holiday evolved, it became known as the holiday of the giving of the Torah, our tree of life. We're almost finished counting the days of the harvest. And in more modern practices, some of us have maybe been working on our character traits, kind of taking an accounting of the soul, a cheshbon hanefesh, which we don't just do at high holidays, we can do during this period of the Omer. Maybe some have worked on our character traits with meditations and self-awareness exercises. This is a time to remember that each of us, young, old, fighting age or not, male, female, whatever we bring to this Jewish people, we are such a tiny people, and each of us, from the smallest to the eldest, counts here for so very much. Teach us to number our days, O Holy One, so that we can make not just an accounting of our days, but so that we can make each day count. Limnot yameinu, limnot yameinu, limnot yameinu kein hoda v'navi levav chokhmah. Limnot yameinu kein hoda v'navi levav chokhmah. I wish each of you a heart of wisdom. May each day count for something beautiful and blessed. Shabbat Shalom.